Okay, here's something that really makes you think. Europe, devastating plagues, huge death tolls. China, historically, seems to have faced epidemics too, but, well, the story suggests far fewer deaths.
It's a really striking contrast, isn't it?
Yeah, and it leads straight to the big question we're exploring today was what exactly was the role of traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, in all of this?
That's the core of our deep dive. We're looking at TCM in China, drawing a lot from a discussion with Zhang Weiwei and Professor Zhang Boli.
And Professor Zhang Boli, we should mention, he's a major figure, right? A people's hero, an academician. He really knows his stuff.
Absolutely. Unparalleled insight. So the source we looked at is this YouTube video discussing TCM's benefits, its cultural role, its public health impact.
Right. So think of this as us, unpacking that for you, giving you the key takeaways on this unique medical system, ancient roots, but still very relevant today. Shall we jump in?
Let's do it. One of the first things that jumps out is this proposed link between the China model of governance and TCM's philosophy.
How so? What's the connection there?
Well, it's about the core ideas in TCM. Things like holistic thinking, seeing the body, illness, everything is interconnected, not just isolated parts.
Okay, like seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. And also dialectical understanding, that interplay of opposites like yin and yang. And crucially, tackling the root cause, not just the symptoms you see on the surface.
Right. So if someone has, say, a cough, TCM wouldn't just give a cough suppressant. It would be more like, why is this person coughing? Is it their digestion, their energy, maybe even stress?
Precisely. You're looking at the whole system. And the argument is that this mirrors how the China model tries to address larger issues, thinking long-term, strategically, seeing how different pieces fit together.
Okay, that makes sense. But China doesn't only use TCM, does it? Western medicine is obviously huge there, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's key.
Yeah.
Both systems exist side by side. The idea is complementarity, integration. They talk about preserving the essence and innovating.
So using the best of both worlds.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Leverage the strengths of each system for better patient care.
Now, back to that historical point about plagues, the source material makes this really strong claim that over thousands of years, China managed to avoid those massive European-style death tolls during epidemics, largely thanks to TCM.
It's a bold claim, yeah.
Yeah.
And it suggests that TCM offered this distinct way of understanding and managing epidemics that was maybe fundamentally different from what was common in Europe back then. It's based on millennia of accumulated knowledge.
And interestingly, this wasn't just, folk medicine. There seems to have been consistent support from the very top.
That's right. Our sources really highlight this. Going back to the 1950s, Mao Zedong was a big proponent of combining chemical research with clinical TCM research.
He called it a great treasure house, didn't he?
He did. A great treasure house needing exploration. That phrase really stuck.
And wasn't that echoed by Tu Youyou, the Nobel laureate?
Yes, exactly.
Yay.
In her Nobel speech, she actually quoted Mao's treasure house line. She said insights from TCM were vital for her discovery of artemisinin.
Wow. The anti-malarial drug. That's a huge link between traditional knowledge and modern science.
A really powerful example.
Yeah.
And this high-level backing continued. It wasn't just Mao.
Right. We found this fascinating bit from 1987. Deng Xiaoping talking with President Nair of Tanzania. They were discussing AIDS, which was emerging then.
And Nair mentioned malaria being a massive problem in Africa. Deng's response was really interesting. He suggested, well, maybe Chinese herbal medicine could help treat it.
He even mentioned using it during the revolution when resources were scarce.
Yeah, showing that belief in its practical value. And then Nair, knowing about acupuncture, suggested, hey, let's collaborate. Research TCM for malaria, maybe even AIDS.
And Deng was immediately on board, telling his foreign minister to look into it. That shows a real openness to TCM's potential on a global scale, way back then.
It really does. And this consistent support carries through right up to Xi Jinping, who heavily emphasized integrating Chinese and Western medicine, especially, during the COVID response in Hubei.
Okay, so let's talk about COVID-19, because TCM was definitely very visible there.
Extremely visible, involved very early, from late January 2020, according to the sources.
And then those Fengkang hospitals popped up, the temporary ones, and some were actually run mainly by TCM practitioners. Professor Zhang Boli led one, right?
That's correct. The Jiangxi Fengkang Hospital. It was a major undertaking.
And the data they presented is quite something. 91.5% of confirmed cases nationwide, over 74,000 people used TCM.
Yes, that's the figure cited. And with a reported overall effective rate over 90%. Now, obviously, interpreting that Data needs care, but the scale of use and the reported effectiveness are notable.
It's huge, and Xi Jinping's comments reflected that, calling TCM a treasure, embodying philosophical wisdom, practical experience, linking it right back to the core of Chinese civilization.
That treasure house idea, again, it really emphasizes its deep cultural significance.
So connecting back to the China model idea, the argument is that the way China approached the pandemic, with the overall planning, adapting on the fly, strategic timing, that mirrors PCM principles.
That's the parallel they draw. A holistic, adaptive approach, much like how TCM looks at the body.
And Zheng Weiwei, one of the speakers in our source, pushes this further. He talks about China's 5,000-year civilization as this massive cultural heritage that deserves, well, rational analysis, not just viewing it through a Western lens.
Right. Respecting that history and seeing TCM as part of that living heritage. Something to be inherited, yes, but also developed and innovated for today. It's a key intellectual resource.
Professor Zhang Boli also offered a reflection on the pandemic itself, didn't he? Something about differing global values.
Yeah, he suggested the pandemic highlighted different priorities globally, like the balance between protecting lives versus, say, commercial interests, or individual freedom versus collective discipline. A pretty deep observation on systemic differences.
Which brings us to the elephant in the room, really, the question of hard scientific proof for TCM against COVID-19.
A very valid question. And Professor Zhang Boli addressed it head on.
What did he say?
He acknowledged that for a brand new virus, you don't have immediate administrative evidence, as he put it, for TCM-specific effect. But, he countered, you do have 3,000 years of written TCM history, experience with over 500 epidemics.
So drawing on a vast historical database of practice.
Exactly. Plus, accumulated remedies like Ongong Yukong 1, used historically. He contrasted it with SARS in 2003.
Ah, yes. What was the point there?
That initially, TCM wasn't used much for SARS, but later, in Tianjin, they integrated it with Western medicine. The result, 0 deaths in 58 patients, plus lower doses of Western drugs and fewer side effects. That experience was clearly influential for the COVID response.
Okay, so there's a difference in focus, too, right? Western medicine targets the virus.
Generally, yes. Identify the pathogen, develop antivirals, vaccines.
Whereas TCM focuses more on the person.
On the patient's overall state, that concept of pattern differentiation. It's not just you have COVID, it's what pattern of symptoms does this specific person have right now. That guides the personalized TCM treatment.
And they use tech to do this quickly in Wuhan.
Yeah. Professor Zhang's team used mobile tech to collect symptom patterns from loads of patients across hospitals, built a real-time picture of how the disease was manifesting.
And the strategy was isolation plus widespread TCM. They called it Uji, like saturating with Chinese medicine.
Something like that. Broad application. He even told a story about getting a massive order of herbs from a drug company, basically on a promise save lives first, figure out payment later. Shows the urgency.
Wow. And the results in those early quarantine sites?
They reported a dramatic drop in suspected cases turning into confirmed cases between February and March 2020, led to 0 new confirmed cases by mid-March, suggesting that combined strategy had a real impact early on.
And inside those TCM-led Fengkang hospitals, what was happening there?
It was comprehensive. Herbal treatments, sure decoctions, granules, but also acupuncture, massage.
So hands-on therapies, too.
Yes. And beyond that, holistic care. Tai Chi Baduanjin exercises those gentle movement practices, patient support groups, even celebrating birthdays, trying to maintain morale and well-being.
That's quite a different picture from just a field hospital. And the outcome.
Remarkably, among their 564 patients, they reported 0 progressed to severe illness, which, compared to the general severe case rates reported then, is significant. It suggests a protective effect.
What about patients who are already severely ill elsewhere? Was TCM used then?
Yes, typically in an integrated approach with Western medicine. TCM might address things Western treatment struggled with. Like persistent low oxygen, they might use ginseng or other qi-boosting herbs.
And for that intense inflammation, the cytokine storm.
They'd use heat-clearing, detoxifying TCM formulas alongside things like steroids or ventilation. Also, there's some suggestion, though it needs more research, that maybe the widespread TCM use contributed to lower rates or severity of long COVID in China.
Interesting possibility. But TCM isn't just for pandemics, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Its main application is for common, everyday diseases. That's where the 5,000 years of civilization and 3,000 years of written records really come into play.
And Professor Zhang Boli brought up this idea of accessibility. Why is that so important?
He frames it as a strategic advantage for future pandemics. Vaccines and specific drugs take time to develop. But TCM remedies being broadly applicable and available, offer an immediate response capability. He sees promoting TCM as almost a matter of national survival in that sense.
So that dual system, TCM and Western medicine, it's a strategic choice.
Exactly. Having both allows for complementary strengths, a more resilient healthcare system overall.
Okay, but how does TCM travel? Is it accepted globally?
Professor Zhang seems, well, cautious about pushing it too hard internationally. His focus is more on building strength internally first. Let recognition come naturally as people see its value.
He mentioned that Artemisinin story again, didn't he? How it took an American historian to really pinpoint Tuyu's contribution even within China.
Yeah, it highlights how understanding the value and origins of traditional knowledge can be complex, even for insiders. It needs different perspectives sometimes.
So for someone listening, how can they start to, get a feel for TCM? He mentioned that saying, great doctors govern the country, lesser doctors treat illness.
Right, pointing to its broader philosophy. But he also said TCM principles are often part of daily life already.
Like with food.
Yeah, the idea of foods being cooling or warming, or health sayings like qi.
Okay, what does qi mean again? I always forget.
Yeah. It basically means wrap up warm in spring, dress a bit cooler in autumn. It's about harmonizing with the seasons. Don't shed layers too fast in spring when your body's yang energy is just emerging. And let your body adapt gently to the cold in autumn to build resilience for winter.
Makes sense. And the other one, move the lower body, not the upper body, in spring.
The idea there is gentle lower body movement helps get your energy flowing after winter, stimulates circulation, kind of wakes the body up without overdoing it.
Fascinating how everyday things link back, but still there's skepticism. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, one suggestion was integrating some basic TCM knowledge into schools. Not to make everyone a doctor, but for cultural appreciation and basic health literacy, like understanding your own body from that perspective.
And understanding prescriptions, that idea.
Right, the ruler, minister, assistant, guide concept for herbs in a formula. It's not just throwing ingredients together. Each herb has a role. They work synergistically. The ruler tackles the main problem. Ministers help it. Assistants deal with secondary issues or side effects. Guides direct the formula to the right part of the body.
It's like managing a team.
Exactly. He even said a good TCM doctor needs skills like a good manager, seeing the whole system, orchestrating the parts. It reflects that holistic Chinese philosophy.
Did they face issues sharing TCM internationally during COVID?
Yes. Professor Zhang mentioned difficulties exporting remedies to Japan, for instance, despite Japan having its own Kampo tradition derived from TCM.
Why was that?
Regulatory issues, mainly. And apparently Japan's strict adherence to very old, fixed formulas made it hard for them to adapt TCM to treat a new disease like COVID-19 effectively.
So flexibility is key. And tailoring it.
Definitely. He stressed needing to understand local conditions, the climate, the patient's specific symptoms via tongue diagnosis, etc., to make formulas work internationally. He gave the example of creating specific formulas, boo and a luchurk, for patients in Australia.
Makes sense. Lastly, they offered some advice based on TCM for students dealing with stress, sleep issues, things a lot of us face.
Yeah, practical advice. Acknowledge the stress, analyze it, but focus on the present, like studying well now for your future. Set realistic goals.
And that luchur idea. Let nature take its course.
It's a bit deeper than just go with the flow. It's about accepting natural processes, not fighting against everything, finding balance. Don't get paralyzed by future worries.
Good advice. And think philosophically.
Right, take a broader view. See challenges, yes, but also opportunities. Maintain your composure, stay calm.
He mentioned something called the adversity response.
Yeah, the TCM idea that sometimes difficult environments can actually strengthen you, make you more resilient. Like the saying, enduring hardship is good for young people. It builds character.
So do your best, accept the outcome, keep talking, keep debating. Seems like solid life advice rooted in TCM philosophy.
And it all comes back, in a way, to that concept of accessibility. TCM is accessible not just physically, but culturally, philosophically. It's deeply woven into the fabric.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've seen TCM's historical rate, its very active role in the pandemic, its philosophical underpinnings, and how it's navigating the modern world.
Yeah, and I think the final thought is just the sheer scale of that treasure house. Thousands of years of knowledge still being explored, still being understood through traditional wisdom and modern science. There's likely so much more potential still locked away in there.
It definitely makes you think about what else we might learn from it. and maybe how its focus on holistic health, on balance, could offer us all some valuable perspectives for our own lives. Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.